Imagine walking onto a car dealership lot with a clear milestone in mind, perhaps targeted for February 2027, fully prepared to trade in an aging sedan for a modern, highly optimized hybrid SUV. You have tracked the market shifts, analyzed the package configurations, and you step onto the pavement with the casual confidence of someone ready to negotiate a fair deal for a standard, everyday machine. No grand luxury, no excessive features, just 4 doors and a reliable powertrain. Then your eyes hit the window sticker, $50,148. You wait for the punchline, assuming it must be a typo, but the silence from the salesman tells you everything you need to know. For nearly a year straight, the entry fee for an ordinary new vehicle has stubbornly refused to drop below that $50,000 threshold, with actual transaction prices hovering just under that peak. It feels like a sudden glitch in the economic simulation, a realization that your money didn't necessarily shrink, but the price tag simply sprinted into the horizon while you weren't looking. We tend to tell ourselves comforting stories to soften the blow. The structural optimists will look at the data and point out that if you strip away inflation and ignore the 6-figure luxury monsters distorting the mathematical curve, vehicles are technically correcting downward from the height of the pandemic supply chain chaos. They will tell you that the compact crossovers everyday families actually buy are trading closer to the mid-30s. But cold statistics offer little comfort against the brutal reality of the monthly budget. The truth is simple. Prices didn't just rise alongside inflation, they outran the average paycheck. While nominal incomes crept upward, real wages failed to keep pace, leaving households spending the exact same exhausting share of their livelihood on transport as they did during the worst days of the global microchip shortage. Compounding, this is the slow, permanent creep of technology you never explicitly asked for, but are forced to finance. An endless array of dashboard sensors, mandatory digital ecosystems, and driver assist arrays that turn a basic commuter car into a high-tech fortress. Simultaneously, automakers quietly executed a highly profitable magic trick. They stopped building cheap sedans altogether, shifting over 80% of production toward heavy, high-margin SUVs. The affordable car wasn't legally banned. It was simply erased from the assembly line. The true architecture of this trap, however, lies in the ghost taxes woven directly into the sheet metal. Walk past those glossy fenders and you are looking at a hidden 25% tariff baked into the global manufacturing process. In a hyper-connected world where a single engine component crosses international borders multiple times, conceived in one country, machined in another, and finally bolted down on an American assembly line, every single boundary line acts as a toll booth. Even when the highest court in the land steps in with a monumental ruling declaring that sweeping emergency executive trade barriers are unauthorized, the automotive market doesn't catch a break. The auto tariffs weren't built on that crumbling legal foundation. They were anchored to decades-old national security and trade expansion acts that remained completely untouched. The monumental court decision hit the news cycle. The public celebrated a phantom victory, and yet the actual cost of the vehicle didn't budge a single millimeter. Instead, the pressure quietly shifted into the fine print, manifesting as bloated destination fees that penalize local production lines just as heavily as foreign imports. Because almost no one drops $50,000 in cash, the ultimate crisis is born in the back corner of the finance office. The modern dealership lot is no longer a place where transportation is bought. It is a portal where individuals rent machines from institutional banks for the better part of a decade. To keep the illusion of an affordable monthly payment alive, lenders have stretched loan terms like taffy, pushing the effective average past 90 months. Buyers are now willingly signing up to pay compounding interest for 7.5 years on a mechanical asset that will actively begin to deteriorate by year 8. A staggering 1 in 5 buyers is now trapped under $1,000 monthly payment before insurance, maintenance, or fuel are ever factored into the equation. At the darker edges of this ecosystem, the structural cracks are widening into chasms. Subprime borrowers are defaulting on their obligations at rates that actively surpass the absolute peak of the 2008 global financial crisis. Nearly a third of all trade-ins are deeply underwater, forcing consumers to roll thousands of dollars of phantom debt from a vehicle they no longer even own into a new asset they can barely afford. It is a fragile stack of IOUs hidden behind historically loose credit approvals and minimal down payments designed to keep the factory wheels turning at all costs. If the new car lot feels like a financial minefield, the pre-owned market offers cold comfort. The pandemic effectively starved the pipeline of off-lease vehicles, leaving the used lot older, scarcer, and plagued by interest rates that easily soar into double digits. High-profile political promises of swift deregulation claim that rolling back emission standards will magically resurrect the cheap economy car. But structural corporate strategies do not easily yield to a government press release. Even the electric vehicle sector, once hailed as the ultimate escape hatch, has undergone a chaotic transformation. The abrupt expiration of federal tax incentives sent the new EV market tumbling off a cliff, causing legacy automotive giants to take tens of billions in write-downs and delay their entire electrification portfolios in a sudden fit of cold feet. Yet, in a bizarre twist of market dynamics, the pre-owned electric segment has quietly transformed into the ultimate consumer loophole. A massive wave of older lease returns has flooded dealership lots, crashing used EV prices down to near parity with combustion vehicles, and offering a screaming value for those paying attention. But the global landscape has a dark sense of humor. Just as these affordable alternatives arrive, a shadow conflict near the critical shipping lanes of the Strait of Hormuz chokes the world's primary energy corridors, sending fuel prices rocketing past $4.50 a gallon. Suddenly, 3/4 of all active shoppers are forced to rewrite their entire acquisition strategy on the fly, rapidly migrating toward fuel-sipping hybrids and near-parity used electric alternatives just to survive the cost of the daily commute. When you pull the entire engine apart and examine the pieces, the ultimate verdict becomes unmistakable. The car market is not racing toward a sudden explosive crash that clears the board and resets the rules of the game. It is caught in the slow, relentless grip of a structural vice. A crash is loud, fast, and forces a resolution. A vice is quiet, methodical, and simply keeps tightening until the immense pressure is accepted as the new normal. If you possess immaculate credit, a deep understanding of market timing, and the agility to exploit specific product packages, you can successfully navigate the gaps and come out ahead. But for the everyday individual, the bottom rungs of the ladder have been completely sawed off. The true tragedy of the modern automotive landscape isn't that the factories will stop humming or that the dealership lots will sit empty. The lots are entirely full. The tragedy is that between $50,000 stickers, invisible border taxes, a volatile geopolitical energy corridor, and a decade of compounding debt, the system has successfully figured out how to price out the very person who needs it most, quietly transforming a historic instrument of personal freedom into a lifelong financial cage.